welcome to the Everyone Active podcast. I am one of your hosts for today, Jo.
And I am your other host for today, Sally.
How are you?
I'm really, really good.
Thank you for meeting me here. So we are in Harbour Leisure Centre in Market Harbour. So I've done a little bit of up from south. You've done a little bit down from north.
Yep.
Here we are. How
Yeah.
are all things in your centre, lovely?
Everything's going really well in the centre. Yeah, we've got a new fitness manager who is super duper passionate and she's doing really well. Yeah, always seeing her out and about doing things. So yeah, people love her.
And you and your clients?
Oh, love my clients. Yeah. Yes. I can't say I've got a favourite, but I might.
There we go. Sally's clients, we hope you're listening. But thank you for joining me today to host.
you.
The team, I'm very, very excited about the episode that we are going to be talking about today, because to my left, we are welcoming the lovely Kirstie, who is Chief Operating Officer for Mummy MOT. Welcome, Kirstie.
Lovely. Thank you so much to be here. It's so lovely. I mean, I've had a drive this morning after dropping the kids to school, which means I've listened to music and a couple of podcasts along the way. A couple of hour journey gives like a bit of a pit stop in a motherhood day. So thank you at very least for that.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. So, team, we're going to be talking to Kirstie today about Mummy MOT. What is it? When we might advise women, mummies, to seek you. But also, we really want to dig into what it is and why it was founded. So, Kirstie, I think your background is physiotherapy.
It is, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so I'll start off by telling you a little bit about Mummy MOT, and I can give you a bit of an intro as to how I ended up into the Mummy MOT,
Right.
and then we can hit from there, really. So, Mummy MOT, so Maria Elliott is founder and sort of CEO, so physiotherapist by background. Started in a very different place, actually, to pelvic health, but as a hand therapist, which, you know, is quite a complex thing. There's a lot going on in that.
Oh.
So, but actually, she was travelling around. Husband worked sort of business, so she got to live in France for a little bit. Obviously, they started a family, and through that, she experienced a little bit of parallel difference in sort of pregnancy and postnatal care between UK and somewhere like France. And I think that just was changeable for her as a life and a career point, really, because she really recognised the gap that we had here in the UK in terms of, yes, we have maternity care, so we're not taking away that we don't have anything in this country, and we are fortunate than many other countries in the world. But actually, as well as having those midwife checks and then we have a baby, we've had something very life-changing go on, sort of anatomically and to our whole brain and psychosocial worlds, that actually then we go to a 6 to 8 week check. We're, as mums, very much in a headspace of let's talk baby still. It's not about me. And therefore, we go through that 6 to 8 week check and then we kind of just venture off into motherhood. Our world's become very much focused on baby. But actually, sometimes as a mum's body, we're carrying a lot and a lot of changes have gone on anatomically, emotionally, psychologically for us. And I think Maria became really aware of that when she was seeing her friends have children, hearing conversations of other women, and also looking at the care that was given there. And basically thought, actually, why are we not talking about this more? Why, even therapists, why are we not educated a bit more in our own training, even around pregnancy as the biggest life-changing event a woman's body's going to go through? Yeah. And therefore, surely can't we offer more help? So she recognised that there was pelvic health therapists out there, don't get me wrong, that were often sat in hospital spaces, sort of gynecology, referrals would go through, maybe attached to a GP, centre, but really more focused, not necessarily around postnatal care specifically, quite broad, and you had to get to a certain level of need before you would see somebody.
And sometimes women may think, I don't want to go to see the GP because nothing's wrong, but actually it'd be nice to have a check-in.
Yeah, so you get two parallel worlds where either something's really going wrong and whoa, what's happening?
Yeah.
And I really need to go and get some help.
Yeah.
Or people even be thinking that, oh, this is normal, this is just part of course and part of process. So Maria basically went on travelling to America and then decided that she would start thinking about her own redirection of training when she got back to the UK. Ended up doing some more training in pelvic health and physiotherapy, and then started working at Chelsea in Westminster. And then still was thinking, okay, this is great. I'm seeing loads of women that need my help, not just in a postnatal sector or pregnancy sector, but just women across the board. But actually, there's still quite a gap. And actually, is any of this preventable if we give the right advice and guidance during pregnancy, if we're picking things up early and we support women postnatally better, that actually these situations might not occur as chronically, or actually women might still have the same needs, but actually psychologically and in terms of function, hobby, involvement, socially, what they're doing might not have been impacted as much. So she thought, well, I could just train people. Let me think about, maybe I write my own format of, like, if I was going to assess somebody in rehab, somebody postnatally, with all my new knowledge and how I've been practicing as a practitioner, what would I do? So she basically went and locked herself in a caravan. Not locked, not just, she's safe. She's safe. She's
still
safe. She's
here.
out. She's still practicing. She's in clinic. But basically, she basically went with a couple of very close friends in the pelvic health space and like sort of developed this program, writing, walking by the sea, coming back, writing it, developing, looking at the evidence, the research. So very much evidence-based practice led. And then basically thought, okay, well, now I better test this thing out. So she did that in her living room. Invited some peers that were also very interested, invested in changing space and empowering women, advocating women, and basically turning sort of this unspoken or what someone might feel as a taboo topic to think about.
Totally. When was this? I was just going to ask.
So this is like 10 years ago now.
Which I know is only, we say 10 years and people think it's blasé. But in terms of women's science, women's research, women's health, definitely birth, health and anatomically as well as mentally, that's really revolutionary.
Yeah, and at the time, like, again, people, so I'm not discounting anybody who wasn't talking about postnatal care and pregnancy care and professionals in certain spaces, but it was quite revolutionary in thinking about, okay, let's train people more specifically in this, and how can I spread the word? How can we talk and educate women and professionals? So basically, after a few sort of peer runs, it kind of just grew from there, and then it became a bit more formal. Okay, maybe this is something that actually is working, so we'll grow it. And then today, I'm really proud to say that we are now a network of over 900 practitioners, UK, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, South Africa, Australia. We've got people in some of the European countries as well practicing that actually travel to come and do the training. So that's really where it started. And again, obviously we have to, Mummy MOT is really about mum still. So it's very much about how can we educate through our social media platforms, through our website, how can we, get certain topics known about, education shared, empowering people to speak up or go seek help, even if that's not a Mummy MOT practitioner, but just going to somebody that's your safe, trusted source. Be that it starts with opening up to a friend in a coffee shop, or another mum at a baby group, or going to your midwife or your GP, or your child's health visitor. Just a talking point. And then we have the practitioner, so we have the Mummy MOT Training Academy, so where we really focus on bringing people through their journey, but not people that are just working in pelvic health and they've come with all that expertise. We're really wanting to be a brand where we're taking reputable, registered, trained individuals, I must say.
Yes.
They're qualified.
So they're already up there, physiotherapy qualified, have done their university education, their practice, they've passed all their guilds levels, everything. They are already working as physiotherapists.
Yeah, and not even just physios. I really want to stress that, because we're really proud that we're also one of the Mummy MOT as a brand really wanted to make sure it wasn't just physios very early doors with this, because we recognise that midwives come with an excellent amount of skill and knowledge, where they've already got the whole pregnancy bit and the bit about the postnatal, but they're just looking at a different lens, because their focus when they're looking at internals inside you, for example, is what's your cervix doing, and is the baby going to come out there, and is that safe? As opposed to we're looking at other sort of postural assessments and functional assessments, but they come with a wealth of knowledge that we wanted to just build on and give them skills. And also we recognise a lot of midwives are wanting to work broader to the role of seeing somebody in pregnancy in those 2 weeks after. They wanted to have that ongoing continuity and supporting the women, how they were coming into motherhood and go on that journey with them. We also have osteopaths who, again, very similarly work with the body, the biomechanics, the posture, the function, the breath, similarly to physios. But again, we just have very slight nuances in how we work. So we wanted to recognise that actually they came with a wealth of anatomical knowledge, and often had the pregnant woman or the postnatal woman, even a lady who's had a child 3, 5, 10 years ago, where they've gone through those changes that are impacting their presentation physically today, that they still could actually land up in a clinic space, and better education would change course of treatment approach potentially.
And is there a way, say for example, if a lady comes and it's 5 years later and it's something that's not within your scope of practice, is there a referral system to say, actually, this is something that you need to speak to a GP about? Or
and
how does
thank
that
you
work?
for mentioning GPs, because we also have trained a few GPs, and that's an area where we would love to target more, because that's where there is obviously the NHS standardised 6 to 8 week check, where if we can broaden GP awareness or specialists that have got a special area of interest. So we have trained a few GPs, and we always welcome GPs and consultants and anybody onto our course as well, just to be clear, but or to even speak and educate others. But yes, absolutely. So because as our practitioners, we wanted them to be at the regular touch points of a woman's life. So rather than having to go in the first instance to a GP and then go through a full referral system, if somebody's got really acute symptoms, we don't, we're not saying don't go to visit your GP, because it's still very much important that you can go and get those symptoms logged if they're really impactful. But actually, if they're coming to us, we want them to be maybe your physio, your osteopath that they've already been seeing for other things because they do sports or activities, or they're more sedentary and their body needs a bit of TLC from time to time. Or that they, we train fitness professionals now, not as practitioners, but as a fit pro, Mummy MOT Fit Pro. So we wanted to equip, you've got people who, when they're pregnant, either go and seek fitness and health because they wanted to improve their well-being, or maybe afterwards they are instigated that they want to go, be that people want to lose weight, or people just feel the need to be healthier because they've now got a life that they're looking after. So we part of our education is really thinking about the pathway of care. And actually, of course, we will only advocate our practitioners' work within the remit of their skill sets. We don't, it's not wizardry pokery to try and get all the skill sets under hand. So because our practitioners will have maybe differing volume of women coming through, so obviously we know as much as then you're doing your training, it's the actual experience of working with these women that will give you more enhancement in how you approach.
Because when we're talking about, we'll talk through the female anatomy and what happens during pregnancy and afterwards. But when we're talking about, if we go quite blunt and layman's terms, after you've had your baby in hospital, regardless of delivery type, you are out into the wide world with now an entire human that relies on you just to live. And you've gone, holy moly, what the heck's happened? And then I suppose more common knowledge was, okay, I've got maybe 6 weeks, I can speak to somebody in 6 weeks. 6 weeks in terms of our body is actually quite a long time, and 6 weeks in terms of keeping a human alive is a massive chunk of time. It's huge. And that's just kind of where it was. But if you think, if we'd gone into hospital to have knee surgery, we've left hospital with a physio plan, with a 2-week check, with a 4-week check, with a 6-month check. So it's the perspective of, hold up here, team. We've grown a human, we've grown an organ. There has been so many changes to our internals and externals, our environment around us, definitely our hormones in relation to our brain and the rest of our body. Bang, there's also someone that needs you to make sure they live. It's huge. And that's why it's so important that we've got you. Can you tell them a little bit passionate about this?
Because there is that gap. Because me as a fitness professional, I have people maybe 5-6 weeks post, and they say, "Can I come back to the gym?" And the question is, well, what has your doctor said? And they say, well, I've been signed off to exercise. And there's that huge gap between you're really good to go and deadlift your body weight and you've just had a baby. So there's that gap in between of you might be okay to exercise, but what might that look like? And having someone like yourself or the practitioners to give a bit of more of a thorough check.
I've had the privilege of training pregnant women, probably for as long as Mummy MOT has been around. And if they are all listening to this, you know who you are. Melissa's, Tara's, Katie's, hello. I'm not going to name you all, but I'm constantly, please go and find a Mummy MOT practitioner. This is one where you live. Go and book in and see, because visually we can go, oh, we've had a 6-week check.
You look good.
But I'm like, it's a check. It's not a 9 whole months of growing. Our bodies aren't little on-off buttons. Like, let's look after you as well. And that's kind of where you've grown and come from.
Bridge the gap, really, in that sense. And it totally is. And even when you get women that are either feeling that their body's ready or they've been signed off, and just as you were picking up, Sally, actually about the differences, depending on where that mum's starting point is from before and being pregnant and their whole interest in being active, can also lead and impact, as well as the, how busy their life is and everything. But whether they're like, we take on the superwoman ancestry role, don't we, sometimes, when we're like, oh, we can do everything. we can do everything.
Yeah.
Again, without recognising that whole thing that we've been through. And like you say quite rightly, any other medical procedure that we go through, you'd have some recognition of a bit of respite, a bit of TLC, bit of soak up the bags of the chocolates and the flowers coming through the door and sit down, take a rest, go to bed. But actually, no, bam, into busy life. And sometimes, especially if, first baby's big shock to the system for many, it's a change up, like you say, survival mode for 2 people kicks in. But also you're doing that on sleep deprivation where your hormones are disarray, where your nutrition might not be optimized. And where psychologically you're processing a lot that may have gone on as well as your body kind of going back from this sort of renovated position into finding new space and place again. And then it's just allowing that time to not rush in either too much into heavy, strong fitness because you feel like you've got to go guns at it because then I'm going to prove that I'm still fit, I'm still to take on the world and my body needs to get back or, from an image point of view or a health point of view to people thinking, I can't do that. Oh, no, I better not do that. I shouldn't do that because I could cause pain or I've got fear and both things are kind of, we're not belittling either of that because all of those are underpinned by lack of education that's readily available
and
to women. And absolutely. So when you were saying about the years beyond and like a woman, so when we talk about the Mummy MOT, people might say, oh, my children are like 5 and 7, and we still get it even when actually practitioners themselves are coming on our training, and we offer always the opportunity for them to be a model because it enhances the learning of the group and themselves and everything else. And they'll say, oh, but my kids are like 5, they're 7, or I've got like an 11-year-old, and it's like, that's okay. Because actually your body, and we can talk about the anatomical changes, they've gone through that, and has everything restored perfectly, or not. And sometimes have you just got on about your day and made adaptations or not talking about things.
Totally. This is a big thing for all fitness professionals out there, whether you're leading a group exercise class, whether you're a personal trainer, whether you're an online coach. After a woman has had a baby, they are postnatal for forever. Forever. It's not a 6 week, it's not a 6 month, it's not a 9 month. It is forever. Yes. So let's just start getting our heads around
after baby.
Yes.
After baby.
The baby is still there. We are going to talk. We're going to talk through all the changes that can and do happen in a woman's body, and we're going to tap into your physiotherapy background and knowledge and just talk us through in, I suppose, everyday language about what the changes and what are happening.
Okay, this is where the listeners are going, oh, are we on here for 2-3 hours
Here we
now,
go.
this session? It's not going to be Grey's Anatomy, guys, don't worry. So as we've already perfectly highlighted, this is the biggest body change that anybody goes through of any gender. It is transformational. It is the body basically changing itself from inside out, essentially, over a 9-month period, which feels like a really long time. But actually, when you think of all the changes that go on, and not only are we changing position of some of our organs, which we'll talk about in a moment, but we are actually growing an organ, which is the placenta, to then sustain another life. So we are also growing another human being. Like, it is transformational and full renovation. And I think we talk about all the symptoms in pregnancy, actually, and I think we don't always understand why that's happening.
Yes.
So we can look at that as well. But what we need to remember is it's a magical gift, essentially, that as women we are given to have this magical power of doing this in its own merit. But essentially, all the changes really start right at the beginning. So, and for some people, these changes might have been sort of encouraged or helped because they might be someone who's had fertility treatment. So their sort of hormonal changes have already been maybe, especially those having IVF, might have been forced into some degree of sort of early menopause and then shifted back into heightened fertility. So I just want to kind of capture that because I think it's really important to think about not every woman starts from the same place either. And some people might have obviously had birth loss. So their bodies might have already started to have some of the more subtle changes early on in pregnancy. And then sadly they've lost their baby and then they're getting pregnant again, where obviously there's the hopeful carry of a live baby at the end of it. So that's really crucial to us as practitioners as well to understand. But I think the biggest thing is, the first pregnancy revealer, if you like, is you pee on your stick and everything, or you have your blood test and you get your sort of your HCG level hormones kicked in, and that's obviously when the the embryo is implanted sort of day 5 after fertilization, and it's kind of nestling in, and it's kind of saying, hey guys, I'm here. Now, ordinarily, our body is magical at that point because that little embryo doesn't carry your exact DNA makeup, because of course it's got somebody else's DNA mudged in it as well. So they're almost like a little foreign body nestling in and getting comfy without always an invite. But again, they are obviously changing your hormonal makeup already and sending out this HCG. But our body would usually detect that as a foreign body and send all of our sort of immuno cells to it and fight it. Whereas something quite magical happens in the first instance, that it's recognizing that this is actually life. We might want to keep it. And then that's where you first get the build-up of like the mucus plug in your cervix to kind of protect. And that's like an antibacterial little plug. Which obviously key when people are looking at when they're potentially obviously going into like a labour setting, be that on time or early. But essentially you get that hormonal release, and that starts to make other changes to other hormones in your body as well. So particularly over that first 12 weeks, your placenta is growing. So whether you're aware you're pregnant or not, you've already got mass energy, red blood cells, blood pressure, blood flow going to make this whole new organ that will grow over the course of that 12 weeks, about 700 grams, which is a bit like you eating it's probably not a nice thought actually, but it's a bit like eating a steak dinner. Like it's that kind of weight. So before you know, and even thinking about anything else, you've kind of got something that's a bit weighty and requires a lot of iron out of your body as well. So obviously we see that in that early trimester, people are constantly talking about being fatigued or they're more tired. And the reasons for that is because, one, you've got redirection of blood flow and all the good nutrients and goodness that you are putting in your body at that point, hopefully some, and the iron. So understandably, you're going to feel more tired. And then equally, so at that point, you're getting other changes starting to occur into your body where you've got things like relaxin and progesterone starting to be on the rise.
Could I ask a question here? This may be girl knowledge, may not be true, but when we are having our time of the month, we're encouraged to eat a little more, usually between 300 and 500 calories. Is there an idea within those first 12 weeks of how much more we're able to eat?
Generally, again, I think it follows a similar principle because, again, this is to do with the blood flow energy consumption that's going on at this point. And it's really also about what you're putting in. So obviously we're taught to have our supplements and vitamins, but it's about protein especially and iron.
Despite the fact that we crave sugar and carbohydrates.
Also, I would say to my clients as well that we need to think about the quality of food that we're putting in us, because we can't start talking calories that you could grab from a quick and go. It's about, do you know what, you're setting your feeder for the life that you are growing. So what you're putting in is going to be taking and growing that. So think about.
Babies love all the iron as well as because in that first period of the baby growth as well, neurologically, the cells that are having to generate and come together. If you think about when the mums go for their 12-week baby scan, how formed a baby is in terms of shape and everything already. There's so much had to go on. So it's always really key, and you can do that obviously by looking up your own research or advice and guidance from creditable people, talking with your GP, talking with a dietitian, talking with a healthcare or fitness professional that's done additional sort of nutritional training, nutritionist specifically, who would really give you much more involved conversation about that. But we will advocate our mums to be taking their right vitamins and supplements, and their folic acid still on their supplements, and then thinking about iron and calcium and proteins as really picking that up to support that.
The good
you want a nice healthy placenta and baby that's happy just growing and developing in there. But that's just obviously one thing that's going on, but obviously there's so many other system changes that are going on. So as obviously baby's going to grow, your uterus has to kind of swell, and obviously that continues to do that as baby grows over the time. But equally with that, a lot else happens, because not only is the uterus growing and to a point holding more and more sort of amniotic fluid around the baby as time goes on, and obviously then that means that your kidneys have to change their lifestyle up a little bit as well. A picture of all your organs and where they're sat. Basically, you may as well screw that up, shake it about, and then open it back up again.
Make way.
Because push them that way and push them that way.
Everything has to move. So your uterus would usually sit obviously quite low down in your abdomen, whereas now what it's going to do is it's going to swell, it's going to lift upwards and outwards. And in turn, what happens is your diaphragm will now shift up. So women will talk around feeling breathless, that actually when they're trying to do more simple tasks like getting in and out the car or going up the flight of stairs or carrying heavier items, suddenly they feel a bit more puffy. And they're not making that up. That's real. Like the diaphragm needs to normally obviously expand and contract to allow the inhaling and exhaling function of your lungs. Or your ribs will flare outwards and come outwards and upwards a little bit. And this is again allowed by relaxin and progesterone increasing in your body, trying to create a little bit of room up here so that then you're breathing. But what happens is we then really, we don't get good belly breathing.
Yes.
We get really short diaphragmatic rib breathing, which can become really short. But progesterone's really clever because it kind of basically tells our brain, hey guys, we need to breathe a bit quicker because we need to get the oxygen in here. So things like that happen. So a woman's resting heart rate might be a bit lower. Our diaphragm connects with our pelvic floor. So suddenly that's changing up how those guys normally talk to each other and get on with one another as well. And then with all those shifts around, our kidneys are suddenly having to deal with a lot more sort of water management and production. So progesterone also makes sure that it supports increasing red blood cells in our body. That actually, because we need more water to be getting to baby via the placenta, we need it ourselves, we need good return on our own circulatory system to stay healthy, to carry this new life as well. So, but it doesn't quite send around all the red blood cells. So it doesn't suddenly think, oh, we'll send loads around more water. And you know what, we'll send some really helpful blood cells that's going to help someone feel a bit more alive and oxygenated with that as well. They send around half, a little extra, like a little token gesture.
Yeah.
But suddenly, obviously, if you think about all that new water now that is being managed through the water system of the kidneys, your poor bladder has now been splatted and squished and flattened because it's like, oh,
And there's more coming.
yeah. So uterus has gone up, ribs has gone out, diaphragm flatter, higher, and not got enough room. Then your intestines have gone, hold on, guys, where are we going? That normally sit wrapped all up in a little ball round here.
Especially the small intestines, they've just gone, oh, okay, we're rising. Where are we going? Hello?
And then they get to the top and they go, oh, we'll just go round the uterus. Like, so they kind of unravel and then just like, we'll just go anywhere. Find space, guys. Like, go round and down. Like, so they just wrap round.
I'm picturing like a little beaver in a dam, like, stop it coming!
So with that, you know, it's not surprising that then women are, you know, peeing more. They're not able to hold their wee. They go for a wee and then they stand up and they think, oh, no, I need to get back on and have another wee. All symptoms are absolutely normal because sort of the organ functions and position has just been absolutely smashed and changed up. It's not surprising that women have suddenly like constipation, or sometimes they might go the other way, but quite often it's because of the sluggish, because again, we've got relaxin release that has made all of that collagen and muscle function just loosen. We don't have as much tight contraction and stuff to be forcing the poo out. And also then we're in a different place. So it's not surprising. And these are all just, again, normal reasons, not of concern, not of an issue, you know, but also because when we start carrying an increased load when we are pregnant, people always say, am I going to get hemorrhoids? Well, we don't have a glass ball, but there are some things that you can do to kind of help. So pregnancy-induced rather than delivery-induced hemorrhoids can be because of the load and the pressure that a woman's carrying. So keeping really well hydrated, keeping a good fibrous diet is all going to be supportive of trying to get your bowel to kind of join in a little bit with you.
We could say, and I'm not sure people are aware, we've got meters and meters and meters of intestines inside us. I want to say it's nearly up to 20 meters. So when they're all condensed, absolutely, of course, that pressure is able to move everything through. But we have literally, they've opened up around the whole of the volume of our stomach. So it's going to be, it's different for them. And that's why, absolutely, the hydration is so key. But also bearing in mind, oh, sorry, what? I need the toilet again. It's that balance.
Absolutely. So a kiwi a day can be helpful. You know, we found that advice to a lot of women.
I go for Weetabix, the Weetabix minis. They get me moving.
Feeling encouraged. But yeah, I mean, you asked me, Sally, about back pain specifically, and I think that's not to say that actually some of what we would call visceral, which is like organ, so all that movement, of course, it's going to change altered pressure and feeling and sense, and also how, you know, where that's positioning, where it's putting pressure, and where, if things are on one side more than the other, obviously a little bit of weight difference inside, as well as baby is now growing sort of up and out, if you like. So quite often the sort of more pain that we find in terms of, you can get joint pain, just to be clear. So it could be knees, it could be ankles, hips, shoulders, any joint really, because relaxing isn't like picking a joint and going, do you know what, on this person, let's go for elbows. It can affect all, because it's affecting the whole collagen makeup of your body.
We just say relaxin is the hormone in the female body that will allow more flexibility.
Thank you.
More separation, and it can be, predominantly around our joints, our ligaments, our muscles are there, and it's the hormone that goes in that allows a female body to expand in areas it hasn't done previously
before. And obviously when we're talking about relaxing impacting the muscle tissue, that's one, but your tendons that join your muscle to your bone, and then your ligaments that are bone to bone. So everything that normally in your skeleton is like structure, strong and mighty, like is suddenly going, that's okay, we can free up a little bit, we can go a little bit lax here. So, and that is important, it's crucial, because we need different weight management and transfer in our other joints as well to allow for this, not only just the central growth that's happening. So the pain itself can come from essentially the consequence of relaxing, being released in our body a little bit, which we need, and it's not that we'd want to restrict that in any which way, but it's just because where you're getting some sort of joints sort of broadening, stretching, increased movement, all of that, that's not used to that. It's general physics, really. You're just putting different forces and pressure in different areas that it's used to. And therefore, typical areas that we will see in sort of that more central area that sometimes postnatally might persist longer than other joints is that sort of lower back, like we would refer to it as a sacroiliac, but it's basically where your spine meets your pelvis. Some women will get sort of pubic bone pain, so at the front. You might hear it termed as pubic symphysis or symphysis pubic dysfunction. And that's like just where you get a little bit of separation of that bone. And then again, it's all normal. It's nothing scary. It's nothing that's not going to like necessarily resolve itself or cause real persisting pain. But there, and the outer hips are a really common area as well that we see. And also sort of the saddle. If you imagine like you've been on a bike ride and the area you get sore when you've cycled and you've not cycled for a long time, which happens when you have kids as well. And that area can become sore because it's just, your pelvis is so central to your weight distribution and how we manage what's above it and below it. It's an area where it has quite a lot of impact and effect. So, that's more the reason on that side.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because especially with the back pain, a lot of people, whether they're pregnant or not, are concerned with back pain. And I think it's like when you're pregnant, it's normal, but it's good to go into the depth of why is it happening? Why might it? Yeah.
But you're just starting to learn so much more about triggers, anything on your body when you're growing that baby, but also your centre of gravity is also changing. So your whole postural system is going to be, and it does totally change.
Yeah, you see women where they might have had quite an upright posture beforehand, or even a bit more slumped if they're like an office desk worker, for example, and less mobile in the day-to-day, where suddenly they're having to manage this weight at the front. And then, you see them leaning back, and that pressure on that joint at the bottom is totally different. So it doesn't mean that just to be clear, it doesn't mean you're causing any damage or anything at all. You might have irritation, and sometimes that's nerve irritation, sometimes it's a bit of joint irritation and a bit of inflammation. But actually what we're aiming to do, and certainly our practitioners will support afterwards, and also, just to be clear, our practitioners can see you during pregnancy. It doesn't have to be. We speak about it as the postnatal check you deserve, but actually we encourage practitioners to also support, and as we do in Central Clinic, to see people in pregnancy, because it's all about that supportive journey advice and preventative information that can be given. Because actually, yes, there are biomechanical changes that to some degree are a bit unavoidable, but actually what we can support is making sure that you are getting stronger in the right muscle groups, that actually we're supporting where you might need a little bit of extra flexibility or supple area because the muscle's holding more tension because it's working differently, which is normally the cause of the pain. Again, it's thinking about just where you're getting that advice from, because we always see that now you go onto Instagram. So over the last few years, it's been very menopause has crept up everywhere, which is fantastic. And we definitely in women's health space encourage that. And again, we see as someone in this space of sort of pregnancy and postnatal health, where suddenly everyone's talking about it and a lot of professionals are talking about it, which is amazing. And then you see a lot of other people that might be influencers. They might be in a beauty space. And sure, some of those people are wonderful and they've had their own knowledge and journey and research and everything. So this is definitely not a blanket approach.
And some of them might just be trying,
and
but
they might
not
just
quite hitting it right.
Yeah. So, and again, you know, people talking about things is great, but we just mean that it's advocating that you're getting the right information from the right source.
Yes,
exactly that.
The right source.
We already get that a lot as fitness professionals. People will come to me and say, I've seen this online, I've seen that online, and it's digging through all of that. So yeah, having a reputable brand.
If any stage of life is important, every single pregnancy is different. So just because it might have worked for that person does not mean that that's going to work for you. And that's why the importance of trained professionals is so important.
Absolutely. And as we've picked up all the body changes that we've already spoken around, and, you know, the ones that we haven't really touched on is like something that you made me think about it, actually, when you said about running and the foot. People go, my foot's bigger. Like, am I imagining it? Is my foot big? I'm swollen. I've got swollen feet. And it's like, well, actually, no. And or post-natal, they'll say, I can't get into my heels. And it's like, no, because your foot, because again, relaxing. I mean, it's getting a lot of airtime, this hormone, right? But because it relaxes, obviously, normally your ligaments and your tendons would hold your feet in a certain position, lovely, because it's got to take all that weight of your body. And then now it's got to take more weight. But actually, that has also helped relax those tendons and ligaments in your foot, so you get more separation and spread of your foot, so you lose the arch in your foot, some people, and that changes again the pressure load and the weight, or for some your foot size, which whole new foot wardrobe afterwards, surely. But then other changes that can happen is like your skin just becomes this like superhero stretch, because it just suddenly, you know, people become really aware about stretch marks, or some people might even get like the mark down the darkening around their tummy, and like that's just defining where your midline is in your skin sheet, if you like. But also people's brains change. You're like if we were a computer, actually, it'd be like a software update, like 2.0, like version of yourself that's just prepped for motherhood, because neurally you're rewiring and prepping for motherhood, again based upon all the new hormone release that we have as well. So, you know, all those changes alone will impact somebody very differently. But actually, we all are individuals. We've gone through our own sort of physiological changes, depending on what things we've been interested in, how active we've been, how sedentary we are, what we eat, what we drink, how we work, what hobbies we're doing, how we're sleeping, how we're eating, and then what stress we've gone through as an individual. So emotionally, how we respond to that as well. So it's definitely, if someone's coming from Mummy MOT, as much as we are a national sort of standardised framework, if you like, for a check, it's very individualised and personable. So the structure is one thing, but the relationship and rapport with you and the investment in you is very individual.
Definitely. I mean, we've spoken about growing the baby and the placenta. We have slightly missed off also what happens around our boobs.
Yeah, boobies.
Yeah.
And the good old pectorals and your shoulders, and the fact that that doesn't stop after you've given birth.
No, absolutely not. And again, just to recognise, because we know there are women out there where they have less breast changes. So sometimes, although the hormones are all releasing and doing, and there's certain hopeful expectations that they're going to do certain things, sometimes our bodies do throw these curveballs. So, you know, a woman's milk might not seem to be coming in and producing, and therefore their size of their breasts don't inflate. Their areolas might not be prepping and getting bigger and more poignant and more prominent, to feed a baby. So, but if we speak about where there is change, then obviously, yes, and it's about thinking about our boobs, breasts, whatever you want to call them, watermelons, jugs, then they
Pancakes. For me,
pancakes. Then they do, obviously, they are a mass and they are a load. They are a weight. You know, if we could just, for some, we'd like it where we could just take it off with your bra at the end of the day and put them back on, because they are a weight. And obviously, sort of our centre point is in our thoracic spine, so our upper back, between our neck and our lower back, between our shoulder blades. And obviously, if we've got something at the front of our body that is growing very big in our tummy, and then we also up top have something that's growing very big, we've already talked about posturally, you know, the base of our body and our spine wants to lean backwards to counteract the front bit. And our body at the front is almost kind of what we find is shoulders want to come forwards because they're almost trying to counterbalance now the sway that we've got backwards and then this additional weight where we're kind of wanting to kind of capture this curve in our spine. And that's why women actually, you know, some women in their sort of first and second trimester might say, I got taller. First of all, they go, I'm half an inch taller now, I'm taller. And part of that is because suddenly they are seemingly standing more upright and the changes that occur in the spine and the expansion and the rise and the lift that is created in the abdomen creates that sort of extension of themselves, if you like. But then actually then in third trimester, as everything's really big and really heavy, you kind of get this sort of skeletal little
Lose a couple of
slump
inches.
and like sinking in.
Disappear
So
again.
they might actually feel like they're shorter than before as well. So, but yes, and obviously that does persist afterwards because when a baby's born, of course, we lose a portion, shall I say, of the weight in our tummies. Not all ladies, not for some time, and that's absolutely fine.
Yes.
So at the very least, you're losing that. But obviously, boobs, the idea is now they're going to, for some people, actually bring in that milk more. And for those especially that are looking at breastfeeding, because every woman who has milk come in might not choose breastfeeding, and that's also absolutely perfectly healthy, natural and fine. But actually, again, so some people might obviously go into not feeding and their milk dies off and goes away, and obviously the breast tissue changes will occur quicker as those hormonal changes. But for those that are breastfeeding, and some people will breastfeed for a few weeks or months or years.
Yep.
And the size of the breast will obviously be impacted by that as well, as ongoing hormonal duration.
This may or may not be Mythbusters, but people suggest that if you breastfeed, you lose the baby weight sooner. And I think that adds additional pressure. And from what I've seen from friends, it varies completely from woman to woman. And I think that's really unfair to put that extra pressure on weight loss as soon as the baby comes.
Yeah.
Is there any science behind that?
Absolutely. So there's differing viewpoints, obviously, in whatever you read. So we'll try and stay true and factual. But I think on a very basis of input-output, so if we're feeding and we're putting a certain amount of nutrition and calories into our body, and we are giving some of that extra away because our body's making milk, not meat. We don't make meat. Even though I said steak earlier about the placenta, it's not a meat.
The milk.
The milk. But yeah, so obviously we're making it, and then obviously it's being taken off by the offspring, or we're pumping it out or whatever. Then obviously there is an input-output. So if you're going to eat a certain amount of calories and you're bottle feeding and not breastfeeding, and therefore not giving any calories away, then the calories are all yours. And depending on how active and what you're
It's
doing,
hard to know
is what you're
how
burning.
many they are.
Yeah, and obviously some people, again, it varies on how much someone's feeding. Somebody will be sole feeding, babies will take a differing, varying amount of milk that they will need and require to grow, versus then obviously what that mum is doing physically, again, versus her feeding. But essentially, obviously there is an input-output, as I was saying, in that. But then also there's how much that mum is processing, her metabolism, again, how sedentary or functional she's doing, the strenuous element of that burns more calories, and also what her hormone levels are, because we know progesterone, estrogen, and everything like to play around with our weight as well. So there's too many variables to give an exact, and I think
That's the answer I thought.
It shouldn't be
Totally.
a pressure related
No.
to baby weight loss, because actually that's so individual, and it shouldn't lead a decision over feeding or not feeding, in my personal opinion.
Totally agree
Agreed.
with you, but I also
Yeah.
think it's a subject that hasn't or wasn't researched as much as it should be, and there was absolutely pop your best dress on and go out. And if we think Mummy MOT has been around for 10 years, absolutely we've had female physios around longer, but if you think about our generations of mothers, let alone our grandmothers, it was put your best dress on, get going.
Yep.
So it's really new, and it's so important for when we've got a platform to talk about. It is an individual journey. It's absolutely down to that one mother. There is no pressure from, or there should not be any pressure from society. We want to get you back to your best health and your best version of whatever that looks like postnatal.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to replicate somebody else or even replicate the you beforehand, because you are going to be a different person. And I think the only other thing on breasts and boobies to mention is that obviously, and there are therapists who specifically have gone into the area of breasts as an area. There are a couple of people specifically that we kind of know of and work with that will look at load of the breasts more specifically. So there is people you can reach out to much more specifically about that. And there's also around sort of development in terms of sports bras, and, you know, looking at those that might offer a maternity option as well to a sports bra to support the mum carrying the load, where it's been scientifically evidence research backed up, tried and tested with doing different functions from lifting and loading to running, cardiovascular type work, where actually the movement and range that you need to have available in your sort of pec muscles, your shoulders and your arms is different to those different things. But we want people to be thinking about their breasts as a load and a weight.
I'd never even thought about that, as I said, because I am smaller on the top, but certain times a month they do get bigger, and there's certain bras I think this one's not for today, and I suppose I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and it's totally total sport, because we know running is a totally different to if you are lifting, but you've got to think about what you need, and it's that support. And
that's why we will advocate that mums do, you know, during their pregnancy, at different stages of pregnancy, and also when they are postnatal in the early stages, but then afterwards, as they notice their breasts changing, that they go and seek that assessment. So that can be obviously in your local high street stores where they're doing breastfitting. If you're much more sports minded and you are returning back to fitness and activity, then obviously there are companies out there that you can look up that will offer specific levels of training and assessment and give you something that's fitted and suited to what you're designing to do with it.
Yeah. So. And then there is obviously a very big thing that happens. I might call you in to actually do a separate episode on talking specific birth, but I really want to be able to get onto what coming to a Mummy MOT looks like. But I think it's really important to say, again, births are individual. Some are marathon 24 hours, because you could go from labour and then you lose your water and then you are ready to go instantly. But some people don't. That journey is still totally different. And then we've also got our gorgeous mothers that have gone through a C-section.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, they both vary, and we could talk a whole topic on type of birth deliveries for sure. And we not only have sort of vaginal delivery, but obviously we have sort of assisted delivery as well. So it's kind of that medium position, I suppose, where there has been assistance. And then again, we have still sort of 39% of cases in the UK will go to C-section. But
which
obviously
a huge percentage.
Yeah,
that is big, yeah.
But those figures will still be very variable based sometimes on demographic and location. And some of that can be ethic related in terms of needs and safety that are happening. It could be that actually it's around ethnicity or culture decisions. Now there's a lot around lifestyle choices and people seeing or thinking that C-section is an easier route, which we would advocate that you wouldn't go and have any other abdominal surgery for anything in your sort of abdomen that we've spoken about today.
Whilst
think
we're
that
not
it's
going to go too far into that whole birth process, I think it's really, really important to just talk about, though, the layers that cut through, the muscles that are moved in order to have a C-section delivery.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Go. So obviously that's the difference to the vaginal delivery. So obviously you're not just cutting through the skin layer. And people often don't think about the below layers because they think about this. The scar that they're going to have at the end of it is generally where we sit, because we think of that aesthetically or comfort because of the nickel line and places like that. But actually what we are cutting through is skin, layers of fascia, and connective tissue that are kind of supporting between your skin and your muscle layers. Then we're cutting through abdominal muscles, sort of your transverse abdominis and the bottom, right through them. And then also we're going through, essentially, you have to cut the uterus open to kind of come through into the amniotic sac. So there are several layers that are actually cut through rather than one. And obviously each layer has to be stitched separately. And obviously then women carry a scar. Now, scars in their own merit, if managed well, are fine and they don't cause any problems. But also it is still within a normal parameter if women are experiencing some sensitivity around the scar, if they're experiencing like tingling or numbness, because that can be related to some nerve irritation that's happened, or just nerve disruption because of it as well, or some inflammation or swelling that might be occurring as part of it as well. And people might experience a bit of pulling or tugging sensation. And again, that can just be because of where these multiple layers are actually stitched on top of each other. You can get these adhesions that are occurring as the collagen is lying down in your body, which is an absolutely normal healing process for this scar to heal at every level, that actually then they can get a bit stuck. They get a bit too familiar with each other. And that's why we, our practitioners will teach and advocate, and we measure and we assess scars fully as part of our framework of assessment for a mum that's had a C-section. But actually they will look at how healthy it is. Is it red? Is it looking inflamed or angry? Is it oozing? Are the stitches kind of healed well enough? Have the stitches come out safely? Have you got equal symmetry to midline? Or has it been cut slightly left or slightly right?
Is there any assessment of that in the hospital? Because I had my appendix out and they stitched me up. And I never went back, no?
Yeah, no.
And I thought, do I have to do anything? I don't really know. Struggling to wash my hair. I just thought,
Bless you. No, bless you.
Yeah, I
And
don't know if there is.
And that is the thing. Again, just another abdominal surgery just pointed out there. And even when we see any other wound, unless you're going back for the aftercare as like staples coming out, but a lot of products that are now used are self-dissolving. So, for a mum in this situation, you would hope that the midwife that comes out normally the day after, or if they've been in hospital, they will see you whilst you're on the ward as well, that they would check. And then it should be part of at least the 6 to 8 week check, that they're looking at the scar, the integrity, the healing, and making sure that really from a more like a tissue viability in terms of, is it healing healthy and safely and not angry?
From the women's body point of view as well, when you've had an appendix or stomach surgery, you then don't have to then lift a human that's relying on you, or you haven't had 9 months of physiological and anatomical change, which is also still like our scars are right down the bottom. It's a lot to work for that human body to like
even just getting up
through.
and down
Exactly that.
in and out of bed.
And obviously you're not always able to guard in the same way. Like if you have any other abdominal surgery, sometimes they'll teach you to guard and move with it whilst you're doing, but normally you're carrying an infant or another toddler or something. So we will really look at measuring it to make sure also, because as we talked about, if it's not symmetry, it's not equal left and right, it might pull on certain muscle tissue or act as a bit of a trigger. So that explains sort of the pulling and tugging symptoms. And sometimes if there's been, because of the ligaments that are all in that area and tendons and things that are in that area, that obviously they're trying to avoid, but then also because we've talked about the uterus and its then relationship and position to things like the bladder and aspects, then sometimes you might get sort of a bit of sensitivity that's occurred from just some soft tissue irritation that's changing the pull and pressure through your bladder a little bit, and that can have an impact. But there's amazing scar therapists that solely work in scar therapy out there as specialists, but our practitioners are kind of taught around scars and different techniques, but at a very simple level, sort of getting familiar or asking your midwife or your health visitor if you're out at the time of it, or your GP or see a local Mummy MOT practitioner to look at sort of your scar massage, C-section scar massage, and kind of starting that so that you can get, after a couple of week periods, that you're just gently starting to support that collagen positioning and
increase that blood flow and just looking and knowing, but also recognising what's gone on.
And keeping well hydrated as well, because that's just part of the healing process as well.
So us mums, after we've had our babies, how do we come and find you, and what does our first assessment look like? Because some people are like, oh, I'm walking into a hospital, it's not. But you take a huge barrier away. We're not asking you to travel to hospital.
No.
So what does it look like, and how would we be finding you and booking in?
Yeah, and just also to be really clear, so our practitioners work in different places and different spaces. So some of our practitioners will work very much like mobile in their cars, they come to you. And some people that will be the sole way they work. Some others it might be one of the ways they work, but they might also work in like a clinic setting or part of a gym setting. Or so we're trying to bring you into spaces that shouldn't feel crazy clinical. Baby is always welcome. You don't have to bring baby, Like, we love baby cuddles, I'm not going to lie. That's a little perk that we get to meet them. And also we get to just, see how you are as a little package as well, and support you both in that sense as well. But, if you feel that you're going to be too distracted, you are able to always bring somebody with you as like a, they can be a chaperone if you want, but also if they're just a family member, your partner, female, male, whatever culture, everything goes with Mummy MOT. So basically come along, and normally we'll try and send out a pre-assessment form. And I say we will try because I don't want to, there might be various ways that different people work, but we encourage that they might send you a pre-assessment form so you can fill it in at a time that suits you at home, and then normally like email it in or bring it with you. And this is a bit like, it gives you the headspace and the time to just tell us things around your pregnancy, what it was like, anything you experienced during it, any symptoms, any extra checkups that you might have had. Then we talk very much about your birth history. We talk about baby's weight. We then look at whether you've had any specific sort of gynecological fertility history, any other past medical history. And in terms of then, are you experiencing any symptoms in certain areas? So, and that includes your sex life as well. So it's a very important area of you as a woman and your relationship. So again, are you experiencing anything with sort of your toileting habits, dietary, functional movement, sexual health? And then, so basically it acts as a bit of a talking platform. So when you come in, it's not a case of someone sat there quietly, head down, and then straight into, it just becomes a way that we can open up the conversation with you. If people come and they haven't had a chance to fill that in, it's not, you're not welcome for the rest of it. We go with the flow because we respect that obviously there's reasons why you might not have had the chance to do that. And then essentially what we'll look to do is, so there's all a functional postural assessment. So looking at how you are aligned as a person. So I think people probably really put a physio to generally that, they're going to look at my body and how I stand and how I move. And we have sort of a specialist series of different movements as well that we will get you doing and looking at. So not just that you're static, but actually getting you through some dynamic movements, changing position, changing posture. What's happening? Are you getting any symptoms? What can we see from our observations? What can we feel from what we're feeling? What are you telling us? And then essentially, we're also looking if you've got a scar, as I mentioned, we'll do a scar assessment. We're looking at your breathing and your breath work and how that's working with your pelvic floor. We assess your pelvic floor function, again, in those different positions. We have different technology that might be able to advance how much we see that in terms of looking at things on a screen or biofeedback as well that you might be able to get. And then also we are looking at then if you're open to it, you don't have to. Let me just put this there. As part of the Mummy MOT is our registered brand trademarked framework and offer. An internal assessment is what you can expect to be able to ask for or be offered as part of that. But you don't have to. So what I want you out there, if you're looking and thinking about Mummy MOT and then saying, I've had I've taken my knickers off too many times in the hospital setting. They've seen too much. I've put it all back together again, and it's not for anyone to look at apart from myself now. Then, that's also your call. That's absolutely your consent. And if you do choose that you want it, but you feel more comfortable bringing a friend or a relative or anything there to just be with you, that's also absolutely fine. Our practitioners are really discreet in terms of how they do it. They're very gentle. You can, if you have come with something like pelvic pain, or you've maybe tried intercourse and it's not felt that it's gone successful, then you can inform us as much as possible and we'll go to your rhythm and what you need to do. But the benefits of it is that obviously, rather than just trying to guess what your pelvic floor is doing from external assessments that we can do to get an idea and an observation, we can actually now come in and feel what's happening and feel the integrity of your muscle activation and your, there's like 3 different layers to your pelvic floor. There's like 13 different muscle groups. So it's not just this simple one muscle that's going on in there. There's quite a lot happening and coordination. So we get to feel that. We get to feel, especially if you've had vaginal delivery as well, where there might be some scarring or some muscle tension or laxity, or where you might not be able to activate the muscle group as well. And that really homes in how then we help you going forward. And then we basically try and package that up then in being able to articulate to you if there are any findings. And I say if, because some people will come just as an extra check. Like, it doesn't mean that there has to be big raging symptoms to come and see us. It doesn't mean that we're going to find any raging symptoms either. But obviously, if there is anything that you notice and tell us, and we pick up through assessment, that then we will work together in terms of what that treatment plan would look like and how we can help. And that doesn't always mean that you have to be this big returning customer all the time, because we know expense is another thing. It can be that actually part of that is just empowering and advocating you and giving you the right guidance. For others, it might be, okay, you're going to go off and these are the really explicit things to do to try and fit in. This is your life, so this is how it's best going to fit in. Then we'll see you again. For others, they might require, obviously, or benefit from some more sort of intense treatment.
I think it's an
Sounds fantastic.
absolutely incredible. And I've said it before, and I always say it to any client I'm training, or if somebody's coming to me after 9 months, I'm always like, have you had like a you time? You might have treated yourself to a pedicure if you get 5 minutes. Well, but what about this? Is a treat to you and your body and you as a woman. Let's just have a look, because there might be a certain part that's not quite moved back to where it once upon was, and that's affected your whole posture, like your whole posture. Or it could be, as you've said before, scar tissue. There could be something on that scar internally that we're not actually noticing, and you don't notice it until you've come back a year later and you've started to run, and that impact's changed, and you've gone, hold up. So I think it's so important. It's for every single mum. It's not a, oh my gosh, I've got this problem, I need to go and see somebody.
No, absolutely. And just to add a note on that, is we're also really, although we're called the Mummy MOT brand, we also want to recognise that we're talking about any body that has been in a sort of perinatal period. So I touched on it right at the beginning that actually, unfortunately and sadly, the statistics are still too high, that some women obviously might not carry to full term, or they might go through a series of miscarriage. And if they've obviously gone through a period where their body has still changed and they're still carrying symptoms, then, this is still open to you. And that's for us as a brand to work at making sure that you feel that this could still be for you. And that's an area of focus that we really want to take more, because it shouldn't.
There is a lot,
There's a lot of work that we can do, because we
in
want to be able to
social
support you. Your body has gone through so much. Emotionally, you're going through so much as well, which mental health is physical health and vice versa, really, in that space. So that's really key to us. And I think in view of, any woman's body that has gone through this, and just as you were picking up then, I was thinking, we always talk about, you wouldn't go on a big road trip or be going on a road trip and have come back and maybe gone across different terrain, gone to different weathers, gone through potholes and gravel and gone through water and all sorts of stuff, and then think, oh, we're going to do another road trip, or we're going to leave the car on the drive for a while. You would think, I better get it just checked out and get my tyres checked, or get this, or my oil or my water and all my screen wash checked. We do that automatically, and it's ingrained in us, the same as getting our insurances and things like that. But we don't prep and think about my body has just grown a whole new life, a whole new organ. Everything in my tummy has just moved all around, and my whole body has shifted, and bones have stretched, tissues stretched, soft tissues squished, and everything else. I better do something about this and get it checked. So we always talk about it being the biggest investment to self as a mum, and that's why we talk about life transition and things like changing your job. Some people might get through a divorce. People might go change demographics. Something that a lot of people can relate to is if someone's getting married. How long do people plan a wedding for? Plan what they're going to do, the guest list, their food, their cake, the photography, the favours, everything, 2-3 years in the making. And this is why we will always advocate with your midwives really early on, or if you come and see a practitioner, let us all support you, hearing you and advocating your birth plan. We know birth plans don't always go to plan, but how can we work and optimise your body and understand your body ahead of a birth, and how can we help afterwards? Because you don't have to be stuck. You don't have to accept. You don't have to think that it's all normal.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. How do people find you?
Find us. So we, as I say, we have practitioners all over. I think I said that earlier in the UK. So if you come onto the mummymot.com, then you will basically be able to find us. And we also have a practitioner directory on there. So you can go in, and there's an area for mums. You can go into that and find a practitioner, and you can put in your postcode, and it will come out with all of the ones that are nearest to you. There's advice and education on there. If you happen to be a fitness professional or a physio, osteo, midwife, GP, consultant, very interested in kind of learning more, being part of the movement and joining our community, then there's an area of professionals and you can look at our training there. You can email us on help@mummymot.com, whether you're a mum or a professional, reach out for some help and guidance. We are quite often being approached by mums if they've used the directory or unsure or they want some different advice, and we can prompt and guide you to the relevant locations. But yeah, I mean, I will use this opportunity as well just to do a big shout out to all of our practitioners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because every one of them, you know, we're working centrally. We're trying to get brand awareness out there, because of the movement and messaging, the importance of advocacy for mums to advocate for themselves and reach out for support. And because a postnatal body becomes a perimenopausal body, becomes a menopausal body, becomes an older woman sat. And obviously our pelvic floor function and our woman body and posture and biomechanics feeds into that whole journey.
Yes.
So our practitioners are doing an amazing job. We're really proud of all of you being on the journey and part of our community, and just keep doing what you're doing and keep everyone talking about it in your local demographics.
Team, as always, if there are any questions, you can happily email them in, podcast@everyoneactive.com, and Kirstie, we will send them over to you and we can get the correct information out there for everybody.
Absolutely. And then we could have talked a lot longer because I'd have gone into the types of things that what you might come to Mummy MOT for in some of those sort of post-birth symptoms. Always happy to come back and do more talking about those things if it's helpful, but also if you've got a question, then pop it into the box. And
do you have social media or anything?
Oh, we do.
Yeah,
we
just like obviously just summarise.
Yes, Maria and Davina would have said, just didn't tell them about that. Yes, so on Instagram you can follow the Mummy MOT, so _Mummy_MOT. That's our main page. If you're a practitioner or a fitness professional and interested on a little bit that goes out on our training side, you do the same again, but add training on the end. So _Mummy_MOT_training. And
well done.
And you'll find us on LinkedIn as well.
And we can talk to our absolute geniuses, videographers. Hi, David out there. Hi. We can pop a link. So if you are watching this on YouTube, we will pop a link. Awesome. If you are listening on any form of however you listen to your podcast, we will add a link on there too, so we can keep the connection out there. Kirstie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
you. Thanks for being here.
I've learned so much.
Brilliant. But this, just an important part, this is for everybody to listen and understand. Granted, it's the female that goes through it, but it's a whole collection. It's the community, and it's
absolutely.
You're not alone. And thank you for providing such an amazing service. Sure. The team, please spread this podcast far and wide. Give us 5 stars, thumbs up, however you rate podcasts. Just do so. And Kirstie, honestly, thank you so much.
Thank you on behalf of myself and the Mummy MOT team for having us here today as well.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Team, take care, and we will see you again soon.
Bye.